Do you ever wish that someone had taught you the truth about sex before you had to figure it all out on your own? That's exactly what I want my daughters to know. I want them to have the lessons that so many of us had to learn the hard way, and today I'm sharing those lessons with you. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, or if you are new here, welcome. I'm Dr. Holly, a sex and relationship therapist and mama of 3 girls. And in today's video, we're diving into the 12 sex-positive lessons that I want my own daughters to know as they grow up. Truths about consent, pleasure, safety, and intimacy that can completely change how you see sex. Because let's be real, most of us didn't get a sex education beyond don't get pregnant or don't get an STD. But what if you grew up knowing that sex was supposed to be safe, pleasurable, and respectful? What if you learned that your body was yours and you never had to share it with anyone or never owned anyone access to it? That's the conversation we're going to have today. And stick with me because, in my opinion, the last lesson is the most important. Let's get into it. Lesson number 1, know your body parts. This means knowing the real anatomical names for different parts of the body, including the genitals. And this is a lesson I started very early on, before my daughters had any idea of what the function of these body parts were even for. So what I like to do is, as I am giving my girls a bath or changing their diaper or putting on lotion, right? I might say things like, as I'm putting lotion on their stomach, I might say, this is your stomach, or this is your tummy. Or as I'm putting lotion on their arms, I'll say, these are your arms, these are your hands, just as you would teach them any body part. And then when changing their diaper or, washing them in the tub or the shower, I might say something like, I'm gonna wash your vulva, or this is your vulva. And so jump to one of my proudest parent moments was when one of my daughter's first words, I think her first words were, hi, mama, dada, happy baby, and vulva. And so it's really important to make sure that people know the parts of our own bodies, especially because we often get taught to name them things that sound kind of playful or cutesy, and it really enforces this idea that the actual name of the body part, like vulva or vagina, are meant to be shameful. So lesson number 1, teach them their body parts. Lesson number 2, your body belongs to you and consent is essential. Now, I teach my daughters this before they even know what sex is, as one of them is 2 years old and the other one is only 3 months. I might ask things like, do you want a hug right now? Or can I brush your hair? And it might sound small, but these moments teach kids that even as children, they have the right to say yes or no to touch. This here is the foundation of bodily autonomy. The truth is that nobody has access to touch you without your permission, and you don't owe anyone access to your body ever. Not a partner, not a spouse, not even family members who insist on hugs. Your body is yours, and when we learn this early on, we learn to trust ourselves when something doesn't feel right. When I was younger, I didn't always have the language to say, this doesn't feel right. And I want my girls and you to have the language and the confidence to use it. Also, I want them to know that consent is ongoing, meaning that you can always change your mind. And if you're watching this, I'd love to hear from you below in the comments. What do you think is the hardest part about talking about consent? Lesson number 3, sex should be safe and responsible. Now, I'm not talking about the fear-based sex ed that we grow up with where the message was basically, here are 20 pictures of STIs, now don't have sex. I'm talking about real empowerment by knowing about contraception, knowing how to prevent STIs or to get tested, and knowing how to protect yourself and your partner. This is less of a fear-based form of safety and instead about being responsible. It's kind of like driving a car, right? You don't just throw someone the keys and say, good luck. You give them lessons, you teach them how to use their seatbelt, their signals, their brakes, and sex is the same way. The more informed you are, the safer and honestly, the freer you'll feel. Lesson number 4, sex should never be painful. This one really gets me fired up because I can't tell you how many women come into my office believing that pain is just part of sex. They say things like, I thought it was supposed to hurt the first time, or I just pushed through because that's what my partner wants. Listen, pain is your body's way of saying something isn't right. Sometimes it's physical, like pelvic floor tension, hormones, or a medical condition, and sometimes it's emotional or relational. But one thing is, sex should never be painful, and you shouldn't ignore that pain. If sex hurts, you stop, you figure out why, and you get support, because sex is never supposed to hurt. Lesson number 5, sex is meant to be pleasurable. Now this sounds obvious, right? But think about how many of us were raised to believe that sex was something that we gave to someone else, that our role was to satisfy, not to enjoy for ourselves. I want my daughters to know that pleasure is not selfish, it's not dirty, and it's the point. And when the time is right, they are absolutely allowed to enjoy sex. When we teach people that sex is meant to be pleasurable, it becomes less about performing or giving to someone else and more about doing what feels good and right in our own bodies. Lesson number 6, you don't owe anyone sex. Not a partner, not a boyfriend or a girlfriend, not a spouse, and even in a long-term relationship, sex should always be chosen and it is never owed to anyone. Desire has to be mutual, otherwise it's not intimacy, but it's obligation. And obligation has no place in healthy sex. All right, we are halfway through the list, and I just wanted to pop in and say, if you are finding this valuable so far, I would love if you hit that subscribe button, as it really motivates this mama to keep giving you more free, accurate, and evidence-based information on sex, relationships, and mental health. Now let's get back to the list. Lesson number 7, sex is more than intercourse. Growing up, my sex education was reduced to penetration, and especially PIV, or penis in vagina penetration. End of story. But the real intimacy is so much more. It's trust, it's laughter, it's eye contact, it's touch, it's deep conversations, it's holding hands on a long drive when you're out onto your family vacation. Sex doesn't have to look like what you've seen in movies or in porn. It's whatever feels connecting and right for you and your partner. Which leads me to lesson number 8. Media and porn are not realistic. Here's the deal, porn is not sex ed. It's scripted, it's edited, it's exaggerated. It doesn't show communication, awkward moments, or the giggles when you bump heads during kissing. If my daughters ever come across porn, let's be real, they probably will, I want them to remember that this is entertainment, not education. Real sex looks different for everyone, and one thing we say a lot in the sex therapist community is that porn is to sex what the Fast and the Furious is to driving a car. Much different, and that's not the way that you learn to drive. Lesson number 9, identity and desire can evolve. When I was a teenager, I thought sexuality was something you figured out once and kept forever. But the truth is, who you love, who you want, and how you identify can change over time. And that's not wrong, that's being human. I want my daughters to feel free to explore and evolve without shame throughout the course of their lives. Lesson number 10, good sex equals safety, respect, and connection. We're often told that good sex is about technique, but studies show that what really makes sex fulfilling is feeling safe, respected, and connected to your partner. That means that the real question isn't, did I do this position right, or did I make them come? Rather, do I feel seen, do I feel cared for, and do I feel respected? Lesson number 11, it's okay to ask questions and make mistakes. Sex, like most things, is a learned behavior, and nobody has it all figured out. Sexuality is a lifelong learning process, and along the way you'll get confused, you'll stumble, you'll have awkward moments, and that's okay. The goal isn't perfection, it's staying curious, compassionate, and open. Lesson number 12, and this to me is the most important lesson that I want my daughters to know, and that is, you can always talk to me. Above all else, I want my daughters to know that nothing about sex, love, or their bodies is too shameful to bring to me. And that's the lesson that I hope you take from this video too. That you don't have to hold these questions or struggles alone. Silence builds shame, and openness builds safety and connection. So let's wrap this up. If you grew up with shame around sex, I hope that these 12 lessons gave you a new script, a sex-positive script. Remember, your body is yours, consent is essential, pleasure is a priority, and you never owe anyone sex. If you found this video helpful, please do like and subscribe so that way it really motivates me to bring more information on sex, relationships, and mental health directly to you. Thanks so much for watching, and before you go, let me know in the comments which of these lessons do you wish you had learned earlier, or which of these lessons do you hope to share with your children. Take care, and remember, you deserve a healthy, happy, and pleasurable life.